I got a feeling I know why they drafted Blake Corum. This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the way of screaming. Headline,
Live from the studios of the Ram Cave in the home of the Camellias, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the May 22nd, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair, having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. All right, so a lot of stuff to talk about today, and then again, there's not a lot of stuff to talk about. It's a lot of speculation today, and it's a fun day. It's always a good day to talk Ram football. It's always a good day to be with you guys. But watching Sean McVay's 10-minute presser, the guy is a master, right? The guy is a master. We're going to keep that in-house. They asked him another approach about Stafford's contract. Yeah, you see him out there. We're keeping those parts in-house. They try a third time. Yeah, I respect all your questions, but we're keeping it in-house. And he's got that smile. And I think it's a genuine smile. It's genuine, like, I'm not telling you guys anything. And then the one that I thought was interesting, where he talked about what an animal Kyren Williams is and how a hard worker he is and everything. And then he's got that little thing, and we're just going to be smart about it, right? We're going to be smart. Like the Jonah Jackson one, we're going to be smart about it. And I loved how it just kind of came out. Yeah, Kyren Williams has a foot injury that's holding him back. Now, they're going to be smart about it. He's not going to do any of the OTAs. He'll be there when camp opens later this summer. But that also told me why Blake Corum might have been necessary at number, 82, right? Or was it 83? Yeah, Fisk, the second-round pick was 52, moved up to 39. Third-round pick was 83rd. And that's probably why. That probably didn't hurt the decision-making in the room. Kyren Williams was injured in his first camp with the Rams. Got injured on his first play with the Rams on a kickoff return, on kick coverage. And then he missed 4 games last year. Broke a hand in a playoff game against the Lions, and then, of course, had something happen this offseason while he was working out. I love Kyren Williams. I got no problem with Kyren Williams, but we better be prepared to know what Kyren Williams is. He's a really good back, but you don't want to put too much mileage on him. And Blake Corum is a guy that can pick up some of that slack competently, where you can do more than probably Ronnie Rivers can do. And so let's bring him in, Boston Scott, and Kyren Williams is number one guy, good to go. But the Rams aren't going to ride him like a dog. I got a feeling you're going to see a lot of love in that backfield. Maybe not exactly a committee, but you're going to see a lot of stuff there. And I just thought it was interesting how the Rams kind of glided into that. Oh, no, we're going to be smart about it. And then it's like, yeah, I mean, I had no problem drafting Blake Corum, but, we didn't know when they were going to take a running back, right? Corum was there. They had a need. It's like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. It was confirmed they will be at Loyola Marymount this year, and I'm a little disappointed. I had 2 connections down in Irvine. One of the guys in my church runs the maintenance down for the whole school, and then my brother lives near Irvine, so I had little way to grease the skids to get me in over there. And now they're going to Loyola Marymount, and I'm loath to drive across West LA to get over there. Although the Marymount campus, I've been there, is beautiful. So we got that going on. And then the Matthew Stafford thing, I thought, I saw Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio. It was almost like this contract thing, they're trying to make it a thing. And this contract thing is just a thing. It's not about more money. It's about more guaranteed money. And there's no doubt about him being there at OTAs and that it's not going to blow up. And give me a moment, give me an example of when the Rams have really gone to the wall on somebody that they believed in, right? And tried to lowball somebody. It just doesn't happen. I just feel like a lot of the Stafford contract talk at this point is because they're a little desperate for material, right? Everyone needs just a little bit more material, something to talk about, something to come their way. And so I wouldn't consider it that big of a deal. All right. Around the NFL and other places, first thing around other places, what do you think about JJ Redick being the Lakers' next head coach? I think that's hilarious. I do. I just, good luck with the Lakers, man. To me, it just tells me you're not serious. If they were really serious, they would say, LeBron, we're doing this and you can walk if you want. And AD, we're going to try to move you, get some compensation for you, and we're going to rebuild this thing, and we're going to take control, and we're going to hire a coach who knows what he's doing and is going to be answerable to us and not to the players on his team. But that's not the Lakers. So JJ Redick, trying to sell him as the next Pat Riley. Okay. NFL Network, I didn't talk about this, but they shut down Total Access. Good Morning Football has been off the air for a while. And I like the NFL Network when they're showing Timeline. I like it when they're showing America's Game. I like it when they're showing a Football Life. I like when they're showing replays of old games. And I don't mind Total Access. I like Path to the Draft. I got to tell you, though, sometimes the stuff they labor on with their Total Access show is a little boring. And Good Morning Football is a disaster altogether. It's just a clown show. And maybe you need that with other sports, but I don't think you need to clown, as they do on that show for so long, talking, first segment, you're talking about movies. You're talking about, who's your boy, who does this. I'll tell you why those shows suck and they're off the air is because they suck, and that's why they're off the air. It's about talking football. Talk about football, and they can talk football. They're bright people there, but this man show business, I was blessed when I was working the Holiday Bowl for a number of years with the Mid. I think we went to about 8 or 9 Holiday Bowls, and maybe some of you won't know his name, but it's Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. He was the corner, the centerpiece of the old Mighty 690 when they went all sports in the late 80s. And that's where guys like Steve Hartman and Jim Rome all got their start. And Hartman was great, too, with Chet 40. You can't beat the original Mighty 690 when it went all sports. But I was fortunate enough, maybe 9 years ago, sit next to Hacksaw Hamilton in the press box at the Murph or Qualcomm. And by that time, he had kind of made his way back to 1090 when they were trying to reboot an all sports talk. It wasn't as big of a signal, 1090 Extra Sports down in San Diego. And, he does the best 15 minutes in sports. He talks sports. He doesn't talk man show garbage. And he talked about how the station brought in some young guy that says, oh, you're not appealing to the crowd, yada, yada, yada. And they moved him to weekends, and eventually he left. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to talk man show. I don't want to be Petros and Money. I don't want to be, Ireland and Mason. I don't want to do that stuff. I don't want to waste my time listening to that stuff. That's what I mean. No one's going to ask me to do that stuff. But I want to hear sports talk. And this is why I find myself gravitating more to Colin Cowherd when I'm not listening to a podcast, because I will say this. We might disagree with the guy. The guy talks sports. The guy talks sports every day. NFL Network, believe it or not, didn't always talk football. And I don't want to hear about women in the game. Sorry, okay? Flag football. I don't need to be brought up to speed on women's flag football on the NFL Network, right? And I definitely don't want to see a woman in helmet and pads playing against guys. All right, there we go. Wide receiver Devontae Parker retired. He was a first-round pick back in 2015. Bounced around, went to the Dolphins. Good receiver, not great. Signed with the Eagles this offseason. I was surprised he retired. Someone gave him a contract, and he retired. Still floating around out there as free agents. Stephon Gilmore, Xavier Howard, some corners there. Justin Simmons. I don't see any, unless there's some catastrophic injuries, I don't see any of those guys being in the market for the Rams. If Stetson Bennett doesn't step up, if Jimmy G falls apart and gets hurt, I can see the Rams maybe taking a look at Ryan Tannehill out of desperation. He still hasn't signed. But here's the name that kind of just keeps popping in my head when we talk about free agents that are still on the market. And I know the fantasy is they're keeping the light on for Aaron Donald. They're keeping his locker warm, all that stuff. And yes, I want that. But the guy that interests me that maybe you pick him up at midseason, maybe you pick him up along the way, it's Calais Campbell. That guy can still play. He's 38. He hasn't signed with anybody yet. I imagine he'd come cheap. And if the Rams are in a Super Bowl window, maybe that dude wants to get his hands on a ring. And so, yeah, Calais Campbell. I've always been a Calais Campbell fan. What are your guys' thoughts on Calais Campbell? There we go. I'm Joe Terosian as a sports writer for 21 years, still am kind of. And now I do RamView, thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law. And I write books. My books are on Amazon. And I want to say thank you to you guys for buying them. This is my other football novel, Temple City and the Company of the Ages. And you guys have been buying, and I really appreciate that. We don't have a Patreon. We don't have a paywall. And by supporting my books and this podcast or this Ramcast or this broadcast, you allow me to do this. It helps keep me employed with my day job. I pastor a very small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene. And you could check us out right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, burbankfaithvirtual.com, Burbank Faith Virtual across social media. I see questions piling up. We're going to get there in a second. And but yeah, thank you so much for your support and everything going on there. It is a lot of fun. And please hit like, subscribe, all those things that help us build our footprint. And we are going back to Spotify. We just have to find the right time. We didn't have a big mark on Spotify. I think 19 followers when they said, hey, update your password. I updated my password, and now I can't get back in, and there isn't a live person I can talk to and no phone to call. So we're working out our issues with Spotify. All right, let's see what questions we have here. Okay, USA Expat. It would be a great season for me if Kyren Williams drops to number 3 running back this season. Oh, dropped like third string on the team? USA Expat? Why? Because you got Blake Corum in your fantasy behind Boston Scott? Explain that one to me. Tim Burns, Byron Young up to 260 and faster. Wow, I saw that. There you go. USA Expat through better nutrition. I did see that. And what I love about it is I didn't notice that he was 250 last year. I just noticed he played well for a rookie. What I like about it is it just shows that Byron Young is all in, right? This guy's sold out. This guy is working, and the Rams are going to be the beneficiaries of that. So yeah, good for Byron Young. Tim Burns, inaugural. Those who shan't be named, Georgia for forcing her hubby to swim while not breathing. Okay, and Fisher for being 7-9 every year. I think we discovered that we have to mention their names, but we have to give a heads up before we mention their names, Mr. Burns. That might be it. Tim Burns on the Lakers, exactly. Trade AD, let LeBron James walk, save the dough, rebuild the thing, and rebuild with a strong admin structure. If Pelinka's the guy, if he's not the guy, get rid of him and bring in a strong GM and bring in a head coach that you're going to say, no, he stays, the players go. Just my call. Tim Burns, first media laughs for us taking Corum, and now they mock Rams for not taking a higher rated running back. So dumb. I didn't see that. Did they? What was it? Because they didn't take the kid out of, was it Texas? What was the deal with that? I didn't hear about that one. USA Expat. Big Kyren Williams fan, but also a fan of competition and want 3 solid backs for the season. Fully agree with you. Fully agree. I like Kyren Williams. Hits the hole really fast. My thing is he's fragile. Anytime you look at a guy like that, unless they're a MJD, right? Maurice Jones-Drew, they're going to take hits, and there's a shelf life to all of them. I don't think they asked James Brooks when he was playing in San Diego and Cincinnati. He lasted quite a few years, but I don't think they asked him to run B gap too often or A gap too often. And he was a great back, but he was kind of slight of build, and they only last so long. And so, yeah. Biozio, really excited to see what Fisk does this year. Man, Biozio, man, you jumped ahead of me. I will come out of the question section real quick here with that. If you guys have more questions, pile them up there. But I did make a mention in my notes here about Braden Fisk looking good. And they were talking about how fast he looked. Also, he's wearing number 55. He's channeling some Carl Ekern, right? And you put Ekern's motor with a guy that has some physical ability, and you got some Pro Bowls in your future. I thought that was pretty cool. Also looking there, just scrounging around for info with Ben Skoranek gone, number 18 available. Tyler Johnson has changed from number 14 to number 18. Now, this again is kind of interesting. I think his rookie year, was it his first 2 years or just his rookie year? Cooper Kupp wore number 18, and then Skoranek picked it up in 21, and then you got Tyler Johnson now. But with all the talk about Roman Gabriel, right, and now suddenly the KBM realized that Roman Gabriel was Filipino, do you think there's going to be a point here where a Veterans Committee steers Roman Gabriel into the Hall of Fame, and if he goes to the Hall of Fame, then maybe that 18 gets retired? Kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting to think about. Also, just scrolling around looking for good stuff to talk about. I respect everybody who does this, man. It's not easy, but a guy like Jake Ellenbogen, he's a young guy, but he's worked hard for a lot of years, and he's had a lot of success, or some success that allows him to do this for a living. So good for him. I was scrolling through, and I actually clicked on a link. And I tell you, I never click on links, but I clicked on a link that he had some trade ideas for the Rams. I won't go too deep into it, but he mentioned some wide receivers that the Rams could look at. He mentioned 4. He mentioned CeeDee Lamb. He mentioned DeAndre Hopkins. He mentioned T. Higgins. He said he's not saying these things could happen. He's just saying they would be just ideas. And the one name that he mentioned that I kind of liked was Courtland Sutton. I thought that one was interesting. He mentioned Courtland Sutton, and he also mentioned Saints cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. And I think a few years ago I would have been on a Marshawn Lattimore, but I'm not all in on Marshawn Lattimore anymore. I'd sooner go cheap and sign a Stephon Gilmore who's available if there's some disaster in the Rams secondary. I think Kobe Durant is a good corner. I think he just has to stay healthy. I think we're going to get another year out of Darius Williams, and Trey White is fighting for his career. I think the Rams cornerback room is motivated, and you could pick up guys up there. Darian Kendrick has experience. You know what the Rams won 10 games with Darian Kendrick starting at cornerback. Right? Guys, it's not the end of the world with Darian Kendrick, right? Not the end of the world. All right, I know questions are coming in. Let's just keep pressing on here. Looked at the Rams schedule again. I think I talked about this a couple months ago when the actual opponent list came out. But I looked at the quarterbacks. You know, Rams have 17 games. They're going to face about 14 different quarterbacks. And when you look who they face, right? Goff week 1, Murray week 2, Purdy, Caleb Williams week 4, Jordan Love week 5, Gardner Minshew, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, maybe Sam Harrell, Tua, Drake May, Jalen Hurts, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, and then you go through the NFC West again with Purdy, Murray, and either Geno Smith or Sam Harrell. When you match these up, I like Stafford more than I like Goff, right? I like Stafford more than Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Gardner Minshew, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith or Sam Harrell, Tua, Drake May, even Jalen Hurts, and Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers. I like Stafford better than all those guys. There's only one quarterback that I think the Rams are going to face this year that is, I think, better than Matthew Stafford because of his youth right now, and that's Josh Allen. And so, yeah, that's about the only one where I think the Rams are outgunned at quarterback. And we're going to kind of do this. We're going to look at offensive lines as the days progress here and look where the Rams are outmatched on an offensive line, you know, whose offensive line is better, whose defensive line, whose edge guys are better, whose corners are better, whose receivers are better, where the Rams have an edge in their schedule. Just fun stuff to go over as we look to it. But again, I'm very pro Stafford. I think there's only like two or three quarterbacks I would trade him for. Everyone else is got a long way to go in this. And so, yeah, Allen is the only one on the schedule that really scares me. I think Derek Carr is shell-shocked. Aaron Rodgers, he's old, has a lot to prove. Jalen Hurts, I'm not really impressed with. Drake May, he's a rookie. Tua, not overly impressed with. We know what the Seattle quarterbacks are. Could be Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy, whatever. We're not too worried about that. I don't think we're worried about Gardner Minshew. Jordan Love is good. Jordan Love could hurt you. Caleb Williams could probably hurt you, but in the long run, I'm not really worried about these guys. Brock Purdy, nope, because I think the 49ers are going to have other issues this year. And then Kyler Murray, never. And Jared Goff is Jared Goff, right? Jared Goff's Jared Goff. He's good. But did Jared Goff beat the Rams last year? Did he beat the Rams? Or did, lack of a kicking game and a couple of suspect calls, maybe lack of a power running game, I think that cost the Rams. I don't think Jared Goff beat the Rams. All right, where are we at here right now? We're only at the 20-minute mark. I'm blowing through this show, and I didn't think I would. Let's see here. Let's look at on the state and Rams history. First, I'll tell you, I'll look at some questions here. Ed Chandler, Williams already hurting, doing nothing. Of course, can't count on him. And I think that was, again, Ed, thank you for clicking on. I don't think we've interacted before, but I think that had a lot to do with Corum being drafted. I really do. He was there. They knew what's his name had a foot issue, and it's like, you know what? We better settle this now. And it's no disrespect to Ronnie Rivers. I like Ronnie Rivers, but I think the ceiling on Blake Corum is a whole lot higher than it is for Ronnie Williams. Bio Zio. Kyron Williams changed the season for the Rams last season. I agree. He really did. But I also think the running scheme changed. Instead of that outside zone, going to that gap run game, allows the running back to make a quick decision, hit the hole and go, as opposed to, you run that outside zone, you're kind of stretching things out a little bit and picking your spots. He hit the hole hard, right? Loved it. And, I thought Kyron Williams was the perfect back for the Rams last season. And I think they're looking at these guys, in that vein for this new running scheme that they started with last year. Bio Zio, he was the spark plug for sure. Amen on that. USA Expat, excited to see the new tight end room in action early this season. I did check out Behind the Grind, and they showed them working with Tyler Higbee and everything. And of course, they didn't mention any time. At least I didn't hear them mention any timetables or anything. Timetable for him, but I like Davis Allen. I think I'm going to like Colby Parkinson. Let's just hope those guys stay healthy. And the kid from Penn State, the Johnson kid, might have a shot because you don't know about Hunter Long. You don't know where Hunter Long is going to be. And so, yeah. And of course, we're not all enamored with Hunter Long, are we? Okay, let's get to this day in Rams history.
It was a stone groove, my man.
It was a stone groove, but we're not done yet. Okay, May 22nd, 1979, Rams signed CFL punter, all CFL punter, Ken Clark. And he plays one season for the Rams in 1979, and it's the Super Bowl season, right? He was far better than Glenn Walker, who had kicked for the Rams in 77 and 78, the USC guy. That guy's averaging 36 yards a kick. Ken Clark averaged which was the expected, what you wanted out of a punter in those days, averaged 40 yards a kick. And so, he did a solid job for the Rams. He ended up getting cut the next August. That's when the Rams decided to make Frank Corral a double duty guy. Do you remember that? In 80 and 81, Corral was strictly the kicker in 78 and 79. And then they made him the double duty guy in 80 and 81. They cut Ken Clark, and Clark ended up going back to Canada. And, he played several more years there. 4-time CFL All-Star, played some receiver early in his career, a little bit, played in college. And he also played with the Portland Storm in the WFL. So Ken Clark is interesting. And the reason I say Ken Clark is interesting is the 1 year he plays in the NFL, he goes to the Super Bowl with a team like the Rams, who the previous, 6-8 seasons, 73 through 78, couldn't get over the hump, right? They couldn't get over the hump. He shows up, goes to the Super Bowl, and gets out of Dodge. The one that I thought was interesting is and I'm bringing it up today, is because on this day in 1989, Mike Guman and Carl Ekern officially retired. And, Ekern was a fifth-round pick by the Rams out of San Jose State, 128 overall. Special teams guy, backup guy, spent 13 seasons with the team. He only misses one full season because of a knee injury, but he became a starter in 1981 and stayed a starter through 1988. He had a Pro Bowl in 1986, and he dies on the road on the 395. I think it was outside of Ridgecrest. I think he was going to Vegas somewhere to help coach kids to play football. Good dude, man. They still give away the Ekern Award for effort by the Rams. But here's the irony. He's with the organization from 76 through 88. He has one season where he has a knee injury. It's 1979. He missed the entire 79 season, and he missed the Super Bowl. And I just thought it was ironic thinking about Carl Ekern, where, Ken Clark parachutes in as the punter, plays 1 year with the Rams, goes to the Super Bowl. Ekern spends 13 seasons with the organization, and the one time they go to the Super Bowl, he's out with a knee injury for the whole season. Your heart has to break for a guy, right, that does that. But still, Rams got 13 seasons, 12 years out of a fifth-round pick out of San Jose State. Man, that's just gold. Another guy, the guy that I mentioned that retired on this day in 1989 officially, was Mike Guman. Now, Mike Guman was a fullback, H-back, quasi tight end there in the 80s for the Rams, played 9 seasons for the Rams. He was a 6th-round pick, 154 overall out of Penn State. And he was going against Jerry Ellis, who among the last cuts that 80 season and that 80 preseason, and Jerry Ellis got cut. He ended up going to the Packers and had a great career for the Packers, really solid 7 years there, or 7 years there or so in Green Bay. And the Rams got 9 years out of Mike Guman. And I think I've shared this before that I was actually at the Rams Park. I was at the school where they used to do that, going to interview Mike Stewart. And it was the day in 88 where Guman and Steve Dills got cut. And I passed by those guys walking in. And of course, my first thing is I want to say something, but they didn't have a happy look on their face. Guman was brought back. I think he played 1 or 2 games in 88 and then officially retired in 89. But the Rams got a lot of clicks out of Guman. Great special teams player, could catch the ball, could run the ball. In 80 and 81, he ran both those seasons for over 400 yards. Never a full-time starter guy, except as an H-back, U-back, as they modified went to the one-back set most of the teams did in the 1980s. But to get those kind of clicks out of a 6th-round pick, man, just, that's the kind of stuff that makes your team solid, right? That's why it's always worth it watching that third day of the draft. It always is. Wanted to throw that out there. Born on this day in 1960 was tight end Tony Hunter. Remember Tony Hunter with the Rams? He was a 1st-round pick by the Bills out of Notre Dame. He was drafted 12th overall out of Notre Dame, 2 picks before the Bills took Jim Kelly at number 14. He only caught 30 passes during the course of a couple seasons there, 30 in 83, 30 or 5 or so in 84. He gets traded to the Rams, catches 50 passes in 1985, has a knee injury 7 games into 86, and pretty much he's done. He bounces around. But the interesting thing about Tony Hunter is that what people didn't know, besides he was a really talented tight end that just didn't pan out because of the injury, the Rams acquired him for Vince Ferragamo. The Rams sent Vince Ferragamo in a 3rd-round pick to the Bills for Tony Hunter. And, because no one really remembers, everyone remembers when Ferragamo left the team to go to Montreal in 81, but how did it end for him after the 84 season? And, that was it. It really ended fast for Vince after the 83 season. He injured in 84, wasn't playing well, and then he was gone. And he didn't last in Buffalo or Green Bay, and it was pretty much over for Vince. And, I've always been curious to know, what was that? What happened to him in those moments? Born on this day in 1964, Marcus Dupree played for the Rams in 90 and 91, appeared in 15 games, ran for over 250 yards. He didn't look bad, and it's just a tragedy of what happened to him in terms of the injury. John Robinson gave him a shot, so he got a taste of the NFL. And then born on this day in 1977 was cornerback Dre Bly. Some of you guys brought up Dre Bly's name out of North Carolina. 2nd-round pick, 41st overall. Played 4 seasons with the Rams, went to 2 Super Bowls. Then he left for Detroit as a free agent. In 2002, 2003, he goes to the Pro Bowl with Detroit. In his career, he picks off 43 passes, has 5 pick sixes. But get this, 3 of those pick sixes were with the Rams. In fact, he had 2 pick sixes for touchdowns in 2001. Dre Bly, as somebody brought up earlier about a week or two ago, Dre Bly was a heck of a player for the Rams, and I think he was just one of those cap casualties that always seems to happen. But yeah, just thought it was good getting his name out there. And tomorrow, since we're not on the air, best name to mention is some dude that played at the University of Pittsburgh, played for the Rams for about 10 years. His name's Aaron Donald. Yeah, he turns 33 tomorrow. Aaron Donald is 33. So if Aaron wants to take half the season off, come back later, given his age, and be fresh for down the stretch, then that would be awesome. I'm all good in that. If not him, let's get Calais Campbell. There you go. All right. We're at the 30-minute mark. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a super long show today. Let's see here. Let's see. USA expat. Ekern's high school was across the road from Barkowski's high school. Okay, that makes sense because that's why Ekern went to San Jose State. Rams had a little thing with San Jose State there in the mid to early 70s. Cody Jones went to San Jose State. And, of course, later on, they got Jarrell Thomas from San Jose State. Yeah, San Jose State had it going on there. USA expat in the same neighborhood as Santa Clara International Swimming Center, made famous by Mark Spitz. There you go. Somebody remembers Mark Spitz, right? I mentioned Mark Spitz to somebody about a year ago, and they go, who's that, right? I said, oh, who's Mark Spitz? Unbelievable. Tim Burns, Joe, what is your 4 Rams wide receiver dream team? Oh, of all time? Of all time? You say, okay, you got Holt, Flipper, Cup, and Bruce. Man, you leave Ellard out? Ellard's a tough leave, man. Ellard's a tough leave out of that group. Well, my first is Harold Jackson, right? My time. I didn't see Tom Fears or Elroy Hirsch play, right? So my time, my burner is Harold Jackson, flat out. My burner is Harold Jackson. If I'm looking for, even though he was a little bit more than that, if I'm looking for the classic possession guy that always finds a way to get open, yeah, I'm going Cooper Kupp. And then my top 4, and then I like Ellard. I like Ellard, and I want to take Ellard, but I think I want to take Holt and Bruce. I do. I know that sounds awful. I did get my throwback in there with Harold, but yeah, could you imagine 4 receivers, Harold Jackson, Cooper Kupp, Holt, and Bruce? I mean, doggone, right? And I want Henry Ellard, but yeah, I just don't have room for him there. There you go. Biozio, number 32. I think you're talking Dre Bly. Yep, there you go, Dre Bly. Or Cullen Bryant's number. Aaron Donald will be the Biozio. Aaron Donald will be the first LA Ram to be elected in the Hall of Fame since Isaac Bruce. You think, yeah, he's got to wait 6 years. Do you think Andrew Whitworth might slip in ahead of him? Do you think that could happen? Maybe. Biozio there, speaking Ellard. USA expat, San Jose State team also had Kim Bocamper and Gerald Small. Dolphins. Those guys were both, wasn't Gerald Small a corner with the Dolphins? I remember Bocamper, he was one of the killer bees, right? And I do remember Bocamper coming out of San Jose State. I had his football card. Biozio, Everett to Ellard was awesome to watch. Here's the bummer about Everett to Ellard, right? Everett to Ellard, the high point was 88 and 89. And then everything fell apart in 90, right? We never recovered from the 49er game and the phantom sack and all that kind of stuff. And then prior to that, we're watching Ellard. He caught some passes from Ferragamo. He's catching passes with Jeff Kipp. He's catching passes from Steve Dills, with Steve Bartkowski. Who else filled in during that time, right? Think how great Ellard was. And he really only had Jim Everett for 2 years. Jim Everett was the only big-time quarterback in his prime. Ferragamo felt different in 83 than he did previously. I thought by 83, I thought Ferragamo was looking a little hesitant. He didn't look like he had confidence. He didn't have the confidence he threw with prior to John Robinson. That's just how I felt about it. But really, Ellard only had him. And then he leaves the Rams and goes to the Redskins, and it's the post-Joe Gibbs Redskins, right? So you got Heath Schuler. So can you imagine Henry Ellard if he had a Matthew Stafford throwing him the ball his whole career? Or let's say he had ended up in Buffalo and had Jim Kelly throwing to him, right? Of course, If he had gone to Houston, his numbers would be through the roof. Drew Hill became a star in Houston, so that would have happened. But yeah, you think of Ellard, at least Holt and uh, Torrey. They had Kurt Warner, Bruce and Holt. They had Kurt Warner throwing to them, and Mark Bolger was a really good quarterback throwing to them. And Cup has had Goff, who was good, and he's got Stafford, who's great. And so you wonder what would have happened with Henry Ellard. Man, I didn't know I was going to go there, but there you go. Those sideline passes. There you go. Steve Ramirez. I have to have Snow and Jackson, and picking up about 5 guys for the final two. Really, again, Steve, I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to let you take that spot there because you picked this team up 69 a little bit earlier. I picked him up where Snow was the second option, right? I think he caught 30 passes in 72. I think in 73, I think he caught 20 or something because Harold, first it was a running team then, and then you had Harold Jackson. He caught 40. I remember Harold Jackson, 40 catches, 13 touchdowns in 1973. So I caught Snow at the tail end, right? I saw the one-handed catch against the Vikings in 74. I saw the touchdown against the Eagles on Monday night, his last hurrah. So I don't have, it's almost like Gabriel, right? He's more mythical. So I don't have that emotional connection with Snow. My brother loved Jack Snow. But USA expat, Snow and Casey. Casey's another guy that it would have been interesting if he had come to the Rams earlier in his career. Biozio, Ellard, Bruce, Holt, and Cup. Okay, there you go. Hey, I'm noticing there's no Brian Quick there. No Kenny Britt. You're not into those guys, Kenny Britt. No Tavon Austin, really? You're not into them? Aaron Cox. No one's into Aaron Cox. Bobby Duckworth. Anybody into Bobby Duckworth? I'm going to throw a name at you. I'm going to ask you if you remember this name. Flipper Anderson, of course, yes. But I'm going to throw the name at you. This guy didn't have a great NFL career, but he had a nice run with the Rams. A guy named Ron Smith. Anyone remember Ron Smith, right? He's a second-round pick. Got traded in 80 to the Chargers, but he had a heck of a postseason in 79, right? And he had some plays for the Rams. I think the only 2 years he was there. I did like Willie Miller. It just he wasn't a great guy. He wasn't great. I liked Ron Jesse, but there's just limits to what you can do there. Aaron Cox was always in motion. Aaron Cox was brutal, right? Aaron Cox was just brutal. USA expat Ron Brown. Okay, Ron Brown. There you go. We liked Ron Brown because he went to BP. He went to Baldwin Park High School. Thomas Wilson. In your view of all the Rams teams, rate the best offensive line. Now, that's easy for me to say. I pick out guys. Do you want me to pick what years? Because basically from 65 through 92, 91, the Rams offensive line was a model of consistency. And I can name off all those guys, but if you're going to say name off the best they've had, then at left tackle, you got to go Orlando Pace. Right tackle, you got to go Slater. Center, I like Ken Iman, but it would be between Rick Saw and Doug Smith. And I'm not sure. My left guard would be Tom Mack. And then I'm really partial to Dennis Hara. But, I know there's like names like Shabelli, Kent Hill. But I like Dennis Hara. I would probably go with Dennis Hara. So yeah, let's just say, out of respect for his 6 Pro Bowls, I'm going to say Rick Saw at center. I'm going to say Jackie Slater, right tackle. I'm going to say Orlando Pace, left tackle. Tom Mack, left guard. Right guard, Dennis Hara. There we go. That's it. If that one works for you, Mr. Wilson, I hope I hit that right for you. Steve Ramirez. Smith caught that first half Hail Mary versus Dallas in 79. Yes, he did. That was a great catch. And then he catches McCutcheon's pass in the Super Bowl, right? That was a special run. Biozio, 89. Are you talking Ron Brown or Fred Dreyer? I know we're not talking Higgs. We're not talking Higbee. I'm a Fred Dreyer guy, but I did like Ron Brown. USA expat. Rules were different for different air offensive lines. I agree. Biozio, Tom Newberry. Yeah. And Newberry was what, a second round, third round, fourth round pick? Somebody correct me there. I don't have my Tom Newberry notes in front of me, but was it Wisconsin lacrosse they got Tom Newberry from? And that was one of the few hits in the back half of the 80s because we butchered those those Eric Dickerson picks. Flipper Anderson, that pick was acquired for Barry Redden. In fact, I was going to talk about that soon, is that when the Rams acquired Buford McGee, they also got the pick that allowed them to trade Flipper Anderson in the deal for Barry Redden. And so the Rams really butchered that Eric Dickerson deal. If they had some of Jimmy Johnson's smarts, they could have used it great. But I think there was another plan in play there in those days. But Newberry, Mike Schad around that time. Remember Mike Schad? I think Schad might have ended up going to either Philly or Pittsburgh, gave them a year or two as a starter. Duval Love was a project, the guys they brought up. Thank you, Bios. A guy they kind of got some clicks out of that was just kind of floating around a little bit. Wasn't a high, I think he might have been undrafted. He was a low draft pick. Duval Love. And also another guy from USC, Tony Slayton. There you go. Let's see, Thomas Wilson, Doug France. Doug France was great, right? And then I think injuries caught up with him. And Doug France had some angst, right? He would call it out. He said the room was racist with the Rams. He didn't like the fans sometimes. Doug France passed away about 6-7 years ago, but Doug France would have thrived in this culture now with Twitter and everything because he was an outspoken dude. But by and large, for the most part, the dude backed it up, right? His run wasn't long with the Rams, but it was good and it was memorable. But he never recovered after, who was it? Was it OW? And Joe Bob took out his knee that night in Chicago, OC Weeks. Yeah. So Brett Rippon and, do you want Brett Rippon? I don't know. I'm going to help me with that one, Dano. I don't want Brett Rippon. There we go. Biozio, Damone Johnson. Yes, the Terry Nelson of the 80s, San Luis Obispo. There we go. Steve Ramirez, Doug France, LC Weeks. That's right. USA expat, Big Wit over Orlando Pace. Orlando Pace in his prime, man. That dude was a beast. Could I say something maybe possibly heretical? I went with Jackie Slater at right tackle, but Bob Brown was the Rams starting tackle in was it 68 and 69? Could he or is it 69, 70? He could be, the right tackle. Would you have him over Jackie Slater? I think we got an affection for Jackie Slater, though. Okay, guys, I'm going to stick with this for another 2.5 minutes because we're coming up to the 45-minute mark and everything. I don't know if there's any breaking news. Let me look and see if there's anything. I put a lot of notes out, and then I don't necessarily always use all my notes. I just want to see if I missed anything here, and because you guys are still here. It's really cool. All right, Biozia, who was better in college? Reggie Bush or Marshall Faulk? Well, no one saw Marshall Faulk at San Diego State. I mean, very little. I knew Marshall Faulk because I listened to the Mighty 690. And so you would hear Hacksaw Hamilton and those guys talk about him and everything. And I think the world knew who Marshall Faulk was. But, when you're at USC and you're in that Pete Carroll era and you're playing for national titles, Reggie Bush emotionally is going to get the nod. But you know what? For all-around football player, Marshall Faulk, hands down. I didn't even like the trade when the Rams made the move for Marshall Faulk until I saw him in that 99 season. I realized, yeah, just keep your mouth shut, Joe, because you could tell that dude did everything on the field, right? That dude did everything on the field. That guy, Reggie Bush was good. Marshall Faulk, great, right? I'll put it this way. Yeah, that's pro career, right? But Reggie Bush had a great college career. But Marshall Faulk was on a smaller stage, but the NFL proved it. Marshall Faulk was off the charts. Bios, I love those BYU. Yeah, what was that? Was that the old WAC conference, right? When they would just throw the football all over the place? I remember those games. Steve Ramirez did a feature on Marshall Falk for Student Sports. He was the best. Was he a good interview, Steve? Was he a good interview? That's pretty cool that you got a chance to meet him. I didn't do too many. I haven't interviewed too many Rams. A little bit. I interviewed Jackie Slater and Michael Stewart. I interviewed some guys. That's cool. By the time I got smart in my sports stuff, I didn't get a chance to. The Rams weren't here when I was younger, and I was still a bit of a fanboy and in awe. I didn't belong in those places, right? I belonged at the high school football games because I was still a fan, right? And I'll never forget walking in Rams Park and seeing everybody. And I'm not like thinking, oh, cool, maybe I can talk to so-and-so and ask questions. I'm thinking, oh man, I'm overwhelmed. This is the Rams. I was overwhelmed by pulling into the school and seeing parking spots marked off for Gil Haskell and Fritz Shermer and all these guys and stuff. And I had to grow up. I was, 22 or 21, whatever it was. And you just had to grow up. And so now I would handle it differently. But in those days, I was a little immature. So, all right, guys, I think we had a good show today. Thank you for clicking on and thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting. And we'll be back Friday. And there's another, press conference going on, and we'll have some more stuff to talk about. Willie Bowen, LA Rams will be dominant in the red zone this season. Horns up. Biozio, best show ever. All right, man. There you go. Can I interest you in some books, right? Can I interest you in some Joe T books there, Biozio? You're a super fan right there. There you go. But thanks, guys. I do appreciate that. I do like Blake Corum inside the red zone. Okay, guys, take care. Biozio, I'm on it. All right, guys, take care. I will talk to you on Friday.